This is The Grouch and the Brainstorm. My name's Mike, and I'm an alcoholic. You don't have to say hi, Mike, after that. This is episode number 3. And today, back with us is Matt. Say hi, Matt.
Hey.
Jill.
Hey, guys.
And our co-host showed up today. Her name is?
Jennifer.
Hey, Jen. So today's episode is going to be, we're going to talk a little bit about what it was like entering AA and our beginning times in AA and what our thought process was and what to do. We'll start at day one if we have to, but before we go any further, I want Jennifer to introduce herself because we've been missing her while she's been away.
I'm Jennifer. I'm an alcoholic. By God's grace and mercy, and only God's grace and mercy, I haven't had a drink since December 18th, 2016, and for that, I am eternally grateful. And I'm a competitive bodybuilder. I picked that up in sobriety. I never thought I'd be able to do anything like that. You can't do much when you can't get off your porch or come to blacked out or passed out. I have 2 daughters, single mom. That's about it for now.
Okay. So a little trivia here, but the Grouch and the Brainstorm, the terminology was coined by Jennifer. The Grouch and the Brainstorm podcast is owned by a parent company named Common Peril, and also the name Common Peril and the logo you see on our Spotify page was also created and invented by Jennifer. So glad you're here, and glad you introduced yourself. And glad you're back. And so we're going to dive off into that first year. So I think, one of the first things we hear when we get into the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous is change your people, change your places, change your things, and, change your nouns. And it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to some people coming in. And most importantly, they don't want to. I didn't. I can't speak for those people. I don't know about y'all, but I can't speak for people who are coming into the rooms for the very first time. But I didn't want to change my people. I didn't want to change my places, and I didn't want to change my things. And to be honest with you, I didn't have too many people left. I didn't have really any places to go, and I didn't have any things. But integrating to a whole new way of life, it was almost like I spent my last time was 15 days in treatment. So that was my last little stint over at the bed and breakfast. And, I got out of there feeling like I had been, locked in for, 6-7 years, and I'm having to integrate back into society. And so I come to the rooms of AA because I'm desperate and I want to know what to do. What am I going to do with all this idle time that I'm going to have now? The thought process of being a dad never came to mind, or mowing the grass or paying the bills or checking the mail, stuff normal people who don't drink 9 to 5 do. None of that ever came to mind. But what did come to mind was if I don't do something, I'm probably going to go back and do those bad behaviors that I was doing before. And so I wanted something to do. I needed something to do. Oh, and as an added note, I did not want to hang out with the dorks in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous.
Absolutely not.
Those cats were just what's the word? Lame, I guess, is the 1960s to 70s word for those people. And I just did not want any part of that. Yeah. So I guess what we'll do is we can go around the table, and we're going to start with Matt, because Matt's right in the center and you can't go around the table when you start with Matt. We're going to go around the room. Matt, tell us a little bit, integrating your life from being that drinking every day, drugging every day, wild, crazy, women chasing, all of that stuff, or dudes, whatever, man. Whatever floats.
Thanks, Mike.
Just what was it? What did you do, to stay sober and occupy your time?
So the first thing I figured out when I did come out of treatment and started trying to act like a kind of a productive member of society, I realized there were 24 hours in each day, every day at 24. They were very long days. And yeah, it was a lot of boredom, a lot of meetings, but definitely changed people, places, and things. Went to work, came home, just forced myself to sit there for about a year. It was nothing too fancy. which I was married and had kids, so I kind of had things going on as far as that, responsibilities, but as far as any kind of social life or anything like that, it really wasn't anything. It was just the first year was just focusing, and it just seemed like it was so long every day. It was just like, oh my God, but it got better. And as time went on, I found other things to do and stuff I like doing, including those lame people you're talking about. I hang out with them all the time. There's 3 of them I'm sitting in here with. So, well, okay. I'm not, yeah, all 4 of us actually, but yeah, and I enjoy that now, and that's my people, and don't hang out too much with people that either aren't family or not in this program. Very few of them that I spend much time with, and, but I do a lot of fun stuff today, but I sure didn't that first year. It was boring. So, but that was just, it was what it was, it had to be.
So prior to your first year, was you bored?
You mean before coming in?
Yeah.
Never boring. Never boring.
Moment. So you hit a brick wall when it comes to fun stuff?
Well, I just didn't see how I was going to have fun. But, and that's our mind, I think, tricking us too, because what's fun? Being sick or so high you're obnoxious? That was the only 2 ways that I operated. And then what else is fun is the last 5 years, I was pretty much didn't have any friends anyway. So I preferred by myself most of the time and stayed out as much as possible. And so, yeah, I mean, I think that's our brain going, well, this is boring. Well, boring is better than where I was at, so yeah, I guess when I was in treatment, there was a kid said, "Oh, this is boring, and this is so boring in here." And the tech that had a couple of years that was in there, he said, "Well, you can go back out and not be bored. Police chases, they're not boring. Jail, that's not boring." And I was like, "Yeah, he's right." So.
And you get a little sugar every now and again when you're in jail.
I think so. I think it's all you want in there. So, but yeah, we I guess you would call it boring, but it was more kind of discipline and redisciplining myself to do something different, So, if that makes any sense.
How about y'all? Either one. Take a pick.
Well, about 2 years before I came into the rooms, I had drank all of my friends away. I didn't go anywhere. I literally was a loser party of one, and I would get blacked out, annihilated, drunk on my porch every night by myself. So when I walked into the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous and I was presented with the solution, I stepped off and drank the Kool-Aid, They told me to throw myself into service work. So I filled my time with contributing to my home group and the club where we all come from. And then about 4 months sober, I stepped off into the world of competitive bodybuilding, and that ate up a crap ton of my time. However, looking back on it, was it probably the best thing to do at the time? Probably not. It essentially, I was dry when I first came into the rooms of AA. And so if I had any advice to give anybody, it would be, when they tell you to get a sponsor, when they tell you to get into the steps, that is where the freedom and recovery comes from, because I bottomed out in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous when I first got in there, because I was drier than the Sahara Desert. I was staying sober because I couldn't waste calories on a donut or a piece of pizza I wasn't going to drink with empty calories. And that only got me so far. But that bottom got me to the point of surrender. And then I took the program wholeheartedly. I actually took a break for about 2 years from the bodybuilding. And I had really, really worked on my spiritual life. And so I tried again this time. but with God. And that seems to work for me today. So I've acquired so many friends in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, and it's never boring. Even at the meetings, I can remember days when I first was in the program, I would white knuckle through the day. I'm like, if I could just make it to 5:30, it didn't occur to me that I could go to a meeting not at 5:30, but I thought like if that was your home group, that's the one you had to go to. And then I quickly figured out that there's meetings all day long, and I can go to meetings. I can call up other alcoholics. I can, we go and do things as big groups together. We go eat. And I think about 2 years ago, I made it a big deal that I would just grab groups of people. And it didn't matter who you were. If you want to come, everybody's invited, and we all go eat. And I mean, there would be times at the restaurants that people were looking around like, are these people drinking? Or because it was just like we were the same people, but we weren't drunk, and we were having fun. Cool. And that's the biggest thing, that I can go to dinner, have fun, and laugh, and remember it the next day.
And I think some of the funniest characters and wildest characters that I've ever met have been in Alcoholics Anonymous, and they're completely drink and drug free.
For sure.
And they are off the chain funny. Like, it's not even close.
Oh, right. Man. Some of the conversations that we even have pre-meeting, like the things like that we can talk about, and it's like you take the mask off, and things that I thought that I would never, ever, ever secrets. Like, and it's just like you. Like the day we're talking about when I went to New York that time, and I had.
I'm not asking any questions.
Chartered a Jag with Ebby. You don't have to tell me about what happened.
Remember the hour?
Oh yeah, yeah. I remember. Oh, I remember that conversation. Yeah. Okay. Definitely taking the mask off there, folks. Yeah, a lot of we find a lot of those folks that used to be, what's the word? Like stone faced, I guess it would be, and all those things that go along with it. We find that they are, they have a sense of humor somewhere down in there. I don't know if it's that first year when we see that sense of humor, but and I think Matt said one key thing, that there's 24 hours in a day. You find that out really hard. And there's 365 of them, sometimes 66, depending on what's going on.
Who knew?
Yeah, I'm, and giving up that competitive bodybuilding for a couple years is pretty tough too, Matt. Remember when you did it?
I remember when I never started at all.
Well, I've actually given it up for 50 years and 3 months.
Well, I noticed you had a 25-pound weight on your porch. I didn't know what you were doing with it.
Well, I use that as a fishing thing.
Oh.
I told you it wasn't for weightlifting. I was like, he's doing some kind of Mike thing with that. It's not related to weightlifting.
Apparently, the last person that lived here had a weightlifting problem as well.
Oh, so. Yeah.
But so what about you, Jill? What about just describe that first year or two, if it took longer than a year to kind of integrate into the lifestyle or the program anyway.
Actually, I'll have you guys know that there were a lot of things I didn't do, but there was a lot of things that I did do right. And, what I first did, of course, went to treatment, and they suggested I live in a halfway house. And so I did so. After 3 months of treatment, I lived in a halfway house for 9 months. So my first whole year was pretty much in a controlled environment. Oh, okay. And so, when I lived in the house, we were expected to make a meeting every day, and I hadn't made a meeting every day for about 9 months, just nonstop. I really did. I was there, and I may have been sitting on the back row, and I may have been making, dumb decisions, but I was there, and I got involved, but barely. I was one of those people. And so, and you guys are right. It scared me to death to think what life would be like after getting sober because I couldn't imagine it being any sort of fun or satisfying without everything that I couldn't have. I couldn't imagine a life without my friends. I'm living in Rayville, and I don't really know anybody but these people that I got sober with, and it's almost like its own community. And I wasn't quite sold on it. I still felt like I felt really alone. And I just really didn't think I was ever going to have fun again. And I fought it. I was like, a lot of people went to town and got involved in young people in Monroe. And I was like, nah, they like do fun things. I can't be a part of that. No, seriously. I was like, they're playing volleyball. No, I can't do that.
Almost like you're not worthy enough, or that's how I was.
Yeah. And I mean, I wasn't opposed to a good time. And I remember, I ended up moving after I left the halfway house at a year to Monroe. And so my best friend and I would go to these meetings, and I started to actually have some fun and do some things. I was caught up in a early recovery relationship, which I totally shouldn't have. I had my eyes on him in treatment. God. And so once that ended, I got pretty involved, and I started going to a lot of YPAWs. I would go to Arkansas and go to YPAWs across Louisiana, and actually started having a blast. I was working at the treatment center, and I started playing tennis again. I've played tennis my whole entire life since I was a child, and I played high school and a little bit of collegiate tennis. So doing that again made me really happy. And that's something that, that I still do. And I love it. But it was just, I don't know, it was just baby steps. And I get that because, like, at first, like I was saying last time, I could barely even socialize, much less do anything else at that moment in my life. And then I moved in, like baby stepped into doing social things because, like, I felt like I was growing as a person, and very slowly, I felt like almost an infant at first, and then I'm stepping up into adolescence and things like that. So it was just, I was a slow starter.
I think we all were.
I feel like for me, it was more like, oh my gosh, this is going to suck. These people suck. This is lame. 90 and 90 days. Nobody has time for that. But really, what else would I have to do? Mm-hmm. But then it's like, one day you wake up, and you can't imagine life being any different.
I totally agree.
Once you get sober, like, I can't tell you the day, but it's just like, one day you wake up and you can't imagine drinking again.
Right.
Like, the desire's gone.
And you're questioning, like, how did I do that for so long? You don't even relate to your old self. It was like, I literally spun out in neutral for 20 years. I did literally nothing but just get drunk and get high. And how in the world did I do that?
How did I function?
I don't know.
What was I doing?
Who was taking care of all this stuff when I was still drinking?
God,
Yes, it just blows my mind because I feel like I have two parts of me. There's old Jill and there's new Jill. And I think about old Jill sometime. I'm like, no, it just like baffles me.
Oh. I literally don't know. I've thought about that a little bit, and like how I was employed apparently. I did a lot of stuff, I heard, but yeah.
It's ridiculous, the lies that we tell ourselves, because I really thought I was doing these great things. I thought I was looking great. I mean, I just thought, man, my ego, it was ridiculous. And then when you get sober and you realize, first of all, I'm disgusting. Second of all, I haven't done anything noteworthy in so long that whoa. That's all I can say is
So
whoa.
there's a guy that came into the program that I graduated high school with. And I think somewhere along the way, it was our 20-year reunion. I was like, Jay, you got to come with me. I'm going to have to go into this reunion and talk about how I invented Post-its like Romeo and Michelle because, like, my life is like, I've been divorced twice. I've been Alcoholics Anonymous. Like, nothing noteworthy to share, but I can so relate to that. Here I'm thinking I am just the queen bee of the world, like, you know, when I'm drinking, and just the thought process and that pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization that you just don't know. Like, that's normal, and in some kind of twisted, warped mind that I had.
Yeah.
But I think when you get sober in that first year too, and everything slows down, and you have a lot of time to think, and your brain is everything's going on. Like, the question I got was, who are you now? You're 38. Who are you? What do you do?
I didn't even have a clue.
Yeah, I was like, that's scary.
Did somebody ask you that?
No, I just sat there and went, wait a minute. You know, all the fun, in quotation, air quotes, that I used to have, I was just constantly involved in all that kind of stuff. And I realized I didn't know what I really liked doing. I didn't know the kind of people I really liked hanging around. I didn't even know my personality, like, because I'd be drunk and stupid, and, you know, I thought I was the life of the party. Well, I found out 5 years later of sobriety, I don't always want to be the life of the party. Sometimes I just like to be totally alone, not talk to anybody. But it's taken me a while. You know?
Yeah, I kind of figured out that I'm like an extroverted introvert.
Me too.
When I'm around people, I like to be around people, but then it like sucks the life out of me. And for so long, I thought I just had to hang out with people because I didn't want to be alone. Because I didn't want to be alone in my head.
Yeah.
And so I'd hang out with people. I didn't even have to. I didn't even like them.
Isn't that
I'd hang out
awesome,
with
though?
them.
You start hanging out with people you don't have anything in common with, and by the time you get up, you're like, there's like 7.5 billion more just like that. I probably need to meet them all.
Right.
Yep.
And when I was drunk, I was like, I need to meet them all.
Yeah.
But I don't remember meeting any of them. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy how it works, you know, once you're sober.
Yeah, and then like you said, I didn't know who I was at all. I was a chameleon because it was whoever I was with at the time, whatever boy, whatever they liked. I seemed to, you know, oh yeah, well now I like that too. And it takes a minute to like experience and find things that I do like or I don't like, or you know, and today I can say no.
That's exactly
No, I
right.
don't want to do. No, I'm not going to do that. I don't want to do that. I have no desire to participate in whatever that activity
That's what I was going to
is.
say, is like today I can go, you know what? I don't like that. I don't like to do that, or I don't like to eat that kind of food, or I don't like to
Or eat food
whatever.
at all.
Or eat, well, I can't say that.
I prefer canned chicken.
That's right. But yeah, it's like you go through this change or this evolution of like everything is, but it is baby steps, you know. It's
It
just
is.
baby steps. It still is for me. So
I mean, it was like growing up all over again,
absolutely.
but this time with no substances.
Yeah, because you know I stopped growing emotionally
Yeah.
at like 12, or
Exactly.
I don't know. I might have come out of the womb and was stunted.
Well, I was very fortunate. You know, I kind of like, man, apparently I still had a job as well.
I did too.
You know, I had a really big thing about, you know, whenever I was drinking, I would be like, hey guys, I'm off the next few days. I'll see y'all Tuesday. But I never was specific about which
Tuesday? Yeah, I'm good. I was on that one.
I would
too.
show back up on. And so, you know, I 12-hour shifts, 5-6 days a week. So it kind of kept me busy as far as work goes. But, you know, back to Jill was talking earlier about you seeing people having fun. There was a guy in early AA, and I almost forgot about this to the other day. And his name, I'm not going to say his name, but he's got a long time. He's been sober since like January the 6th, 1988, I believe it is. That's a long time, right? And he came up to me just out of the blue one day, and there was another guy there that I haven't seen since named Will. Will's a big old boy, but he came up to me and asked me if I wanted to run in a 5K, and I was like, well, I don't run at all.
You drive your Porsche in it.
I don't. Yeah,
You could do that.
well, I mean,
That's what I would do.
at the time, it I mean, I might could now, but I was like, I'm not. This guy's been sober since I was in the ninth grade, and he's asking me to go run in a 5K, and it's kind of, I got that feeling of I'm not worthy to be around somebody with all that recovery. Before it was over, we were doing this like probably once, maybe every other month. We were doing a 5K, and and also in my first year, I specifically remember my prayer. I go home and the worst case scenario is going to happen no matter what. You think that anyway. The bottom's going to fall out, shoe's going to drop. I got to do everything I can do to stay busy. Idle time is whatever, not good for us. And so I go home and I actually get down on my hands and knees and I ask God, hey, help me occupy my idle time. Help me fill my time. And that was a while back. And from the moment I got up off my hands and knees until like right now, as I'm sitting here talking to you guys, I've not really had any idle time. I have not had a second of idle time. And I'm not going to ask him to, reverse that decision he made all those years ago, because I really don't want the opposite either. But I've been blessed with having people that just pop up out of the blue, So I was also asked by my first sponsor and my grand sponsor to go play golf every Saturday morning. They wanted me to go play golf. And I'm sitting here thinking, they have like, I don't know, 30 plus years and 18 plus years at the time. And, they're going to be talking about all this recovery out there on the golf course. And I never heard the word recovery, sobriety, drink. I've heard some words out there on that golf course. If it was golf,
you heard words.
I heard some words out there on that golf course, but that just wasn't the case. But it took me almost that full first year to do that. But I remember specifically though, my prayers were that God let me be a good father, a good son, a good brother, and a good friend. I remember those four things, and I would pray those every day, but then when I would go to meetings, I would try to listen to the things that were being said that would help me be a better father, a better friend, a better brother, a better son. And, it wasn't too long after that I entered into a relationship as well in that first year of sobriety. And that was a relationship with my daughter. And I had no idea. I had an idea I had a daughter. I was pretty sure.
Yeah.
I was there when that's a whole nother podcast. Let me tell you, that's something for National Geographic. I was there the day she was born, and but she had actually wanted to, she wanted to go do these 5Ks. She wanted to go walk every day. So I would meet her at her house. I mean, I was the one that was estranged. I was outside I was, basically like I am now. And, but I would go meet her at her house every day, and I would take my son a Little Caesars pizza, and I would pick her up, and me and her would go to either Brownlee or to Clyde Fenton, and we would go walk. And it started out with like a mile, then it would go 2, and then we got up to where we was doing 4 a day. And I think there's a couple times in the bone-chilling weather, it was 80. Not 80 miles. No, it wasn't 80 miles. It was bone-chilling 80 degrees outside. No, it was 8 miles, I think we did a couple of times. But we did a lot of 5Ks. And I remember, some of those first experiences, my daughter was, I kept telling her, get a case for your phone. Get a case for your phone, She never would get a case for her phone or whatever it was, And we were at a 5K and she broke her phone. And I was just, whoa. I was just, you want to tell them, I told you, just being whatever it is a parent does. And so I had to, one of my first times I ever got to practice that pause, pause. Because, unlike a lot of folks, and definitely not against the way I like things to be or wanted things to be. I was going to have to drop her off later and go on back to wherever I was staying at the time, my apartment or whatever it was. And so I tried to chill, and while we were walking, I remember we were making good time or running. We were in Firecracker 5K, so it was July. I got sober in June, if that tells you anything. I got sober June 21st. This was July the 4th, so I'm thinking it might have been the following year because I probably couldn't even walk on July the 4th. So it might have been a year after that, but we were walking, and she had already broke her phone. We were making good time. We were somewhere in that neighborhood of beating our last 5K. All of a sudden, I get competitive, for the first time in my life, and so we're making good time, and her shoes comes untied. Now you got to remember, it's an 11-year-old girl, right? Well, she might have been 12 by then, but her shoe comes untied, and she's like, "Dad, tie my shoe." Or she can tie her own shoes. Don't get me wrong, but something happened, and she sat down on the grass, and I started tying her shoes, and the frustration was building with the phone. And the fact that we were making good time, and now we were going to start falling back in the crowd, and something hit me that said, "Hey, bro, this is what a dad does. You asked to be a good dad, and now I'm giving you an opportunity to be a good dad. You may want to chill for a bit." And at that point, I was just like, it doesn't matter. We'll go get another phone. It doesn't matter. The race is, and it's not that important, and that was probably 10 phones ago. I think that was the iPhone 3.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I think that was iPhone 3 or 4 or one of those, back when they started making the square body from the round body, and then they went back to the round body, but we're not going to promote their products.
But that story just sparked so many of your personal stories, especially when it comes to your daughter. And that's another cool thing is we get to know each other, and I don't consider any of y'all friends. I feel like you're family. Like you are my extended family, and it's like sometimes I can tell your story better than you can, or vice versa. And you did become a good father.
I'm still working on it.
And it's okay today to be working on stuff. You know what I mean? Used to, the expectations are like, I'd be like, oh, I'd beat myself up. Yeah. And now it's like, I am working on it. And it's okay to do that.
But I think sobriety gives us the blessing to do or become good friends and parents and daughters and sons. And, my kids grew up in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. My youngest was in diapers when I came in, and I was so afraid. I'll never forget. It was an old timer. He was a Marine, and he was crotchety. But at my 1-year sobriety date, he went to share about, me or whatever, and he talked about how he was impressed because I would bring the kids with me, and I'm like, oh, great, he's going to talk about how they terrorized the room, and that wasn't it. He was impressed that I did what it took to stay sober, and if that meant bringing my kids with me. And really, I'm the one that gets bothered when my kids act up in a meeting. Nobody else is disturbed at all, but...
Yeah, I remember that. I remember when you first came into the room. Matt, I think I remember when you first came into the rooms, and that was, if I'm not mistaken, 5 years ago yesterday. Mm-hmm. Celebrated 5 years yesterday.
So 5 years yesterday.
I know we need an applause track I could put in the background right there. So, we're talking about our first year of recovery. We're talking about the family aspect of it. So, I've talked a little bit about my family aspect of it, and so and we'll go this way, okay? How did your family react to sober you? We're not going to say recovered quite yet because we're still in that, but that sober you. How did your family react to that?
I think that's the first time I heard my dad say he was proud of me.
Yeah.
My family, I think, were just ecstatic, and they still are. And they know that everything that I've done and everything I went through, and everything that all the hurdles that I've jumped over and all, and they're thrilled. They're absolutely thrilled. I think they get to see like, you know, the best of me now, and they love it.
Supportive?
They are my biggest fans.
They ever been to meetings with you?
No. They did come to Family Day.
At the
The treatment center.
treatment center? Yeah.
Yes.
Well, a family day is something that, you know, the normal person out here who may listen to this thinks of family day as like, you know, hot dogs, hamburgers, everybody's barbecuing and talking like you see on, what was that show that just came out on Netflix? Wednesday? They had family day out at the, you know, family day is a little bit different at treatment center.
I got a good story on that, by the way. I was in North Mississippi, way away from everybody I knew. Well, I was in treatment for a little over 90 days, and I had one visitation day, right? My family came, and it was great. But the rest of the time I was there, nobody came because it was such a long, and I told them, you don't have to come, you know. But a guy that I was in there with, he was local, okay? So he knew everybody around there. So you could put on the list who would be visiting you, and then it was approved during the week, and then they would say, okay, Matt has 2 guests coming or whatever. Well, this guy rolls in, and he's like, I need to talk to you, bro. He's done figured out that I don't have any visitors ever. He's like, look, my old lady's coming. My wife's coming. No, my wife's coming to family day, but it's 2 hours. She's only going to stay about 30 minutes. He goes, but I got 2 girlfriends. I can't have them at the same time. So can I put their names on your sheet? You just talk to them while I'm talking to my old lady, and then when she leaves, I'll wave them over. And that was my first, you know, morality sober deal. And I was like, I don't know any of these people. And I was like, this just is not going to end well. This is going to be a Jerry Springer episode in our family day here. And I just don't think, and he begged me, he's like, I'll buy you commissary or whatever. We were in a rough place. And I'm like, no, you know, a Mountain Dew is not worth whatever's going to happen here. So I didn't do it. But yeah, they're creative in their own family day place I went. So
did you let it?
Did I what?
Let him add the names?
Absolutely not.
Oh.
No.
Oh, thank God.
I mean, these 2 people I would never see until they walked in the lunchroom, and they're supposed to know who yeah, it was too creepy. I was like, this is bad. So
Did you see him? I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jennifer.
I'm still trying to figure out. Like, he wanted, the wife was coming separate, but both of the girls
you could
come
only
at the
have
same time.
you could only have 2 visitors. So if he put 2 on me and 1 on him, that's 3.
Right, but so the wife was coming and going, but were the 2 girlfriends, did they know about
They
each other?
knew about each other. Yes, I'm supposed to entertain those 2.
Was it open?
I don't know. I didn't get into details, but the more I mulled that over, I was like, I'm out, bro. I love you, but I'm out.
Peace.
So,
Deuces.
so yeah.
Well,
So there's that.
he's still in treatment now?
I went back and spoke 8 months ago.
Yeah, I
and
remember.
he was there. Yeah, again.
Working? He's working there?
No, oh, he's working. All right. No, he's a client again. So,
Well, that, you know, chaos breeds chaos, I guess.
yeah, I mean,
So the good news is keep coming back. when we figure out the root of that problem, we might want to, and it ain't alcohol or drugs or, you know, snorting banana pills or whatever.
yeah, I was, my eyes were open going into treatment. You know, the one I went to, it was, they knew all the tricks, but, yeah, I passed on that. So.
How about the family? How'd they take to you? How'd they take the sober Matt?
You know, it was a work in progress. So my ex-wife is one of us, and I'm going to leave most of those details out. But went to treatment as well, got out. So we were both doing that. And program-wise, we were totally different. After rehab type approach was a different deal. We both went opposite directions on that, is the best way I can put it. So that was, it was a struggle. The rest of the time we were married, we were still married for another 3 years, but we were married for a long time before that. And but the kids, it was literally getting back on our feet. So I was working as much as I could and just trying to keep a roof over our head. But as far as overall, everybody's super supportive. My teenage daughter, Shelby, that's home today with the other two, I remember when I got my 6-month chip and I was fired up. 6 months, man.
That's actually a long time, bro.
It is. I know. I was pumped.
That's a
like
milestone.
eternity.
That's
And
like,
and I had worked that day, and I had this old car. I don't know if y'all remember that gray car I used to have. It didn't have any windows in it.
No.
Dude, y'all don't remember that car?
like Frank the Tank.
My kid, it was worse than anything you could imagine. It was horrible, but it was free. It had 500,000 miles on it, and for $10, I could ride for 2 weeks on that gas tank. Like,
Did it have an engine?
it did have an engine. It would haul ass, but it looked like a hot mess. But I drove that car for like a year and a half. Well, anybody could help themselves to anything. Not that there was anything of value in that car, but it had no windows. So I'm at work on my 6 month, and I would get off at 5:15, 5:30, right down the street. I ran in every day. That's what I did. Straight to work, went there. And I remember driving up to, the club, and my wife then, she texted me and said, Shelby left you something in your console. And I opened it up, and it was a note from her. And it said, I'm so proud of you. And I still have that in my big book from 6 months, And so I think the biggest thing, we talk about God's grace and all that, but I think other people, kids and family members and people like that, when they see you're trying, they don't expect you perfection, but they do go, okay, there's an attitude change here. He or she is trying, and I'm the luckiest son of a gun on the planet. And my family, everybody's very supportive, but I probably, all my kids, I have a grandkid now. I FaceTimed him last night, got to see him clowning on FaceTime. He couldn't figure that out, and neither could I. But we have a good time today as much as we can, and I'm pretty tickled about it. What about you, Jennifer?
Fortunately for me, my kids were so young, they didn't know drunk Jennifer. So they've grown up with a sober Jennifer. My mom was supportive in the beginning. She actually would watch the girls for me when I would go to meetings early on, and then she quickly got resentful at that. And I come from, my dad's an alcoholic. My mom's an untreated Al-Anon, could write the book on it. So they're really supportive, but my dad's like a man of many words, as in he's probably said 5 in the last year. And that's just one of the things. My grandmother's really supportive. My friends are really supportive. And I had coworkers that were really supportive. And it wasn't like one of those things where, I tell somebody I'm an alcoholic and they're like, got the crosses and usually most people think that that's really cool, because when you approach that, when you first have to tell somebody, okay, I'm an alcoholic, you never know how it goes. And I always still, even today, if I call in sick for work, if I have told my boss that I'm an alcoholic, I'm like, oh my gosh, she's going to think that I relapsed and I'm not coming to work because I'm hungover or something. And nah, it's not like that though.
So the kids never really saw you drink, right? Your family, though, they just kind of accepted the fact you were getting help, or did anybody ever try to talk you out of it?
No, in the beginning, my mom was very, very supportive. She liked me going to AA, all of those things. But then, it was like one of those things, and we hear it, they're like, how long are you going to go? When are you going to graduate? How long are you going to go to those meetings? Do you really need that anymore? And I'm like, well, how long do you want me sober? But as far as the kids go, that's, you talk about God's grace. Like, again, my kids grew up in the rooms. And God protected their ears. It's almost like they come out of the meetings and they're like, well, what do you do at the Koala Club? And they're like, oh, we talk about God. And people smoke cigarettes out on the porch. Like, they don't hear any of the other things that, get discussed in the rooms. And I think that's amazing. And fast forward to today, my youngest daughter is like the town crier. I'm like, you probably go around telling all your friends and your teachers your mom's an alcoholic and she goes to the Koala Club. She's like, I don't. And I'm like, well, you were just telling somebody, some other important things that you shouldn't have said. But
yeah, kids are funny. My littlest one, she doesn't remember that. I have 2 older ones that are grown now, and they do remember it really bad, and it's been kind of weird. It's been a repair job on all levels, of trying to rebuild things. And it's funny, the little one, the 2 youngest ones, they don't really remember that era. So they think it's funny that I go up there and talk about alcohol with people, and they're like, why are we doing this? What are we doing here? So that's, again, God's grace. So.
Well, mine remember me, as far as the support of the family and the support of everyone I knew, apparently, unbeknownst to me, everyone knew I was an alcoholic but me. So that kind of threw everyone for a loop, or me for a loop.
You didn't have everybody fooled. I had everybody fooled.
I honestly thought that no one thought that I drank as much as I did. And I look back, I passed out at my grandfather's funeral. I've just the telltale signs were there. I just refused to figure that out. But what really blows my mind is the fact that I meet people and I'm like, or my family. You meet people. I meet my family for the first time. But I'm like, I'm an alcoholic, and they're like, oh, okay. That maybe they don't grasp what an alcoholic is, or maybe they don't. Some people are like, no, you ain't no alcoholic. But most people are just like, oh, okay, well, like it's just totally acceptable nowadays. But I had the full support of everybody, including those people that were disgusted with me at the time, people that were really angry with me because of my actions during the drinking. They were like, you go to meetings. You need to go to meetings. No one's ever questioned my meeting going. Some people I see that, I've talked to, and they have a significant other or someone in their life that really cares about them. That's like, you have to go every day, Nobody was like that for me. Everybody was like, hey, you really need to go, Mom and Dad, they didn't know. I say they knew how much I drank, obviously, but my mom and dad didn't know that AA was the way it was. I think that there had been family members that had been sent to AA because of DWI or 12, and that was just a place you would go whenever you would have a run-in with the law. So they would send you to AA. I don't think my mom and dad really understood that it is a lifestyle, more or less. That's I very rarely use that word lifestyle, because I remember telling my ex-wife, I remember telling Wendy, I said, AA is not just someone who goes to meetings every day. You realize that. This is when I was drinking. When I was, debating on stopping, I said, this is a lifestyle. These people live a lifestyle. And I don't think I was ready for that lifestyle at the time of this conversation. But her very supportive. My son, after a while, he became, really, really supportive. I think maybe on my first sobriety date, he was coming around. And by the second sobriety date, we had mended most of our fences, and then we would hash back through that years later to become what we are now. So very, very close. But as far as the family aspect of it, all of them, just overly supportive. So have any of y'all ever had a slip? Jill, you ever had a slip?
Nope.
No? Just came in and just went with it, huh?
Yes.
Yeah. How about you, Matt?
No slip. Since I went to treatment and nothing, had some moments where things were tough, but good sponsorship and good AA people and no slips, but yeah, I can't imagine doing that today. I just can't. Like it's a beautiful thing.
Life or death.
Life or death. Yep.
Yeah, it definitely is life or death. It is for me anyway.
No slips for me either. But the weirdest thing is that I thought that I was the only one that had these dreams, that have using dreams. But the dreams were I was always covering up. I was still in AA and I was still pretending like I was sober, and I would wake up scared as crap. But today, by the grace of God, no slips for me.
Can I tell you all this? This was so weird. I don't know if we talked about this. About 6 months ago, I had the first using dream that I've had in a couple of years.
Yeah.
Really?
And it was so vivid. And they used to terrify me. The first year I was terrified. I would wake up in that just, panic, whatever. And I had one, and I woke up, and I remember sitting there just for a second in that same feeling of terror, And then I started smiling, and I was like, cool. Like I've moved past this. Like I'm almost grateful that I got a little reminder of how bad that was. Like my attitude has totally changed,
Right. That's why I love bringing meetings into the treatment centers too. Like when you see where
Sure.
we were.
Sure.
And how just how clueless I was about everything, and in recovery and what it takes to stay sober, and how I just thought I was just an expert 3 days in, like 3 minutes sober, and I didn't know anything.
I slip a lot. Yeah, I'm not like you guys. My first original sobriety date is 11/18/04. It's covered up right here on my arm. So my last sobriety date was June 21st of 11. That was the last one I had. And the most recovery I had probably between a long time. I don't know. I got sober when I was 38. So between the age of 27 and 38, the longest I had was 92 days. And so, but I mean, I did not have that one thing, the desire to stop drinking. The one thing you have to have to qualify you to get in a rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, I just didn't have it. It had to get bad enough for me to go in there. So, I've slipped, and I haven't slipped since, but I wasn't ready. So obviously that's just going to happen.
I mean, I had little brief periods before learning about AA and going to treatment where I tried to stop, but it was there wasn't the desire to stop. It was almost a panic, like, I think I can stop this, and then tried and was like, then I really realized, oh no, I can't stop this on my own. So, but I wouldn't call those slips because I wasn't even, none of that time that I wasn't drinking or using, I wouldn't consider that sobriety by any stretch of the imagination.
Oh, so. I remember I went like maybe 2 months because I had to deal with somebody, and I'm not going to get into that whole story, but I would quit drinking if he would do whatever for me, and yeah, somebody else's problem became my problem, and I was the proud owner of that problem, and I was crazy. There was it wasn't sober minded.
Yeah.
It was dry. It was like white knuckling. It was terrible. I mean, awful.
It's like we were off our medication, like
exactly.
That's how I acted, like just.
I made the same kind of deal with the Lord every so often. I'll quit drinking if you do this for me. I'll do myself a favor if you do me a favor. Talk about making demands, man.
Right.
Yeah, I had the same thing. So,
you know what I think? Talking about family real quick too. I think this has been a big turning point, and this is a program thing and a spiritual thing and relationship with higher power thing for me. But I've kind of gotten a second chance with my younger kids, and I have with my older kids, but they saw a lot of that stuff. But now the lack of, I thought I had to know it all back then, and I know it all. I'm not going to ever apologize, or I know, Now I'll just go to a 6-year-old and go, hey, I messed up. That's my bad. And they go, okay, because they
Me
do it
too.
too.
Me
And
too.
it's not a big deal anymore, you know. And I think that's where they're like, okay, you know, he's just my dad. He doesn't have to be anything but that, you know. And that's pretty cool today. So
It's a lot of pressure being a parent too. That, you know, sometimes when, especially me as an alcoholic, back when I was drinking, I put myself under undue pressure. You know, I'm supposed to have all the answers, and you know, I didn't even read the manual. You know, but and of course that's absolutely no reason for my drinking. My drinking had nothing to do with anything about being a parent, but you know, there was a lot of undue pressure I'd put on myself whenever, you know, now looking back, if I'd have gotten sober. And I didn't, so that's all that matters. But if I'd have gotten sober when my kids were very young, you know, we could have kind of grown up together a little bit. And, you know, and then they were 11 and 13. By all means, that's not too terribly old, you know. But anyway, can y'all think of anything we need to add?
About family or
Just in general about what we might have been missing about that first year and those experiences.
I think overall the figuring out, you take the time away that your mind's occupied with substances and all that entails. And I figured out today that, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but like I figured out that I naturally have like some form of ADD or whatever. I'm always busy. I always want to do stuff. My brain has to be busy doing stuff, whether it's reading a book or fishing or whatever it might be.
Reading a fishing book.
That's the perfect combination right there. But I figured that out in healthy ways now. Like I realize that's just how I am. And I don't know, but idleness, just sitting around staring at the four walls, is not how I roll. So I've learned to like try things that I normally wouldn't try. And some of them I go, I don't like that, and I don't do it anymore. But some things I've really fallen in love with doing, and I like doing. And yeah, it's pretty cool today to try to figure that out. And I'm still working on like what I do now and what I'm about, you know?
Yeah, finding hobbies have been instrumental. Because I didn't have those. I didn't do anything.
right.
Yeah. I know. I go, you know, skydiving, Rocky Mountain climbing. I just do all kind of stuff.
You go skydiving.
No, I haven't yet.
I've done some Rocky Mountain
supposed to
climbing.
we were supposed to go at one point. You know. Also, too, I would have, you know, the big book was like a coaster for the first, I don't know, several months for me. You know, I said I read it, but I listened to it half-assed. But at some point, you got to study the book to get into the solution. And obviously the solution, I mean, once you get into the solution, you're spending a little bit of time on the spiritual life, and the step work.
The
and
emotional work.
The emotional, and sometimes, I can tell you today, sometimes emotional hangovers are way worse than the physical hangover. And that's just an indication when I get like that I'm not doing something. I'm probably lacking on a 10. Or I need to go back to a 4.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's always a step for just about everything we do. And it's amazing how much stuff you get done whenever you're actually active and doing stuff. Even if it's just clearing your head. I'm going to close out here in just a second, guys, but I went the past couple days, I just went motorcycle riding. I went out there, I got on my motorcycle, and I headed, yesterday I went to Arkansas, or right there on the Arkansas line, up like Benton Road, you know. And then today I just went riding just around Shreveport. You know, I got to see a little bit of downtown Shreveport, Lakeshore Drive, some of the Sprague Street area.
I was just about to ask about Sprague Street, that YouTube video where the...
Yeah, I went down there just to make sure it was still there. And it is. It's still there. And it's still got all the same healthy stuff that it had in the YouTube video. So next time we get together, we are going to talk about spirituality. Spirituality versus religion? No. We're going to talk about spirituality. We're going to talk about religion. But spirituality and religion, and the reason for that is I remember the massive internal debate I had on what is the difference? What are these people talking about? So I'm going to share a little bit of my experience, and I hope you guys do too, about the spiritual aspect of the program. Because for me, it's just a must. It's just something I have to have. But we're not going to dive off into that. But for the gang here at the Grouch and the Brainstorm, we're signing off. Have a good week. Good night.